Well, I'm Charidy and I'm an alcoholic.
Charity.
Things like way in my face, it seems like. Anyway, I thought he was talking about my husband with that introduction, but my goodness, that's kind of putting the pressure on me. Anyway, I'm so grateful to be here with people that are just like me. Not especially thrilled to be behind the mic, but I'm glad to be in the room of Alcoholics Anonymous. The last time I spoke, I froze up. And I was in Palestine, and I just froze, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And Daphne, a fellow member of Alcoholics Anonymous, she says, why don't you start from the beginning? And I was like, oh, well, there's a concept. So that's what I'm going to do tonight. You know, all day I've been thinking, I was just like, man, I wish I had something just awesome that really went on, you know, because I've never been to jail or any of those really cool stories like that. And, you know, it just makes me seem less than an alcoholic, you know, and that's just part of my makeup. I've always been less than in some way or another. So that hasn't changed, I guess. But anyway, you know, I was born into this way of life. My parents, they're divorced, and they both enjoy their alcohol tremendously, still do. I lived with my mom for the first few years of my life until the 7th grade, and then in the 7th grade, I moved in with my dad, and my parents have always held jobs, always, you know, went about life, had their own homes and vehicles and all that good stuff, but they both drank like we do. And but when I was growing up, I was referred to as grandma. They always thought I was an older soul, you know, I didn't party or anything like that, like my brother did. My brother was pretty cool, had all the cool friends in town, you know, so dope out of his closet. And my mom worked in construction work. She was an iron worker for all my life, and she did that all week. And then on the weekends, she worked at a restaurant called Swing a Door in Richmond, Texas. And she did that on the weekends at night, so we were basically alone a whole lot, you know. And so it was me and my brother, and he's 18 months older than I am, and about 5 of his friends constantly at the house, and then whoever they decided to bring along with them, and most of them lived with us half the time. It was a 1-bedroom, very small home that my grandmother grew up in. My mom and I slept in the same bed for many a years, and then there was a larger room next to hers, and that's where all the boys slept. So it was like a home for wayward kids most of the time, but it was good, which I came to realize later once I got into Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, when I got here, I wasn't too happy about how I grew up, but that changed once I got into the steps and worked with a sponsor. And so being the grandma that I was and always wanting a little more stability in my life, in the middle of my 7th grade year, I decided to move in with my dad. And Dad's funny, and he's just Dad. And anyway, I moved in there and finished out high school living there, and never quite measured up with Dad. You know, I wasn't a boy, and if I had long hair, he wanted me to cut my hair, and if I had short hair, he wished I'd grow it out longer. And I remember one time he said, why don't you ever wear dresses? And, you know, and then he'd take me out to the barn and pull beer cans and Coke cans out of the trash can to recycle. Or, you know, hold something while he was welding, and I was like, should I do that in my dress? I'm not sure. So anyway, you know, it was, I played sports in high school, loved volleyball. That was my sport. And I think he came to 1 in all those years. And I remember him dropping me off one morning. He says, do you have basketball practice after school? I said, volleyball, but yes, I do. You know, and so, you know, but he was a good guy. He just wasn't a sports guy. He was a farmer, grew up a farmer, worked in the fields and all that good stuff. And then he was a truck driver, and then he went to work at a pipe plant down there in Rosenberg, and worked 12 hours days. And for 2 weeks he worked days, and for 2 weeks he worked nights. So it was hit and miss. And anyway, but Mom, she would drive all the way from downtown Houston from some construction site, and she would have on her Wrangler shirts with the welding holes in them, and her bandana, and her red wing boots, and she'd tromp on in there with mud and everything, and be at every sporting event I ever had. So it's give and take, and it was cool. It was cool. So I made it through high school unscathed, no big problems there. I started working when I was about 14. My mom worked at the Swinging Door. And I would just work there for fun, really just to make some extra cash. And my brother would get in trouble, and his punishment would be he would have to go to work. So I'd have to go to work too, because I couldn't stay at the house by myself. So we all ended up working at the Swinging Door. And so we called it our family restaurant, and Mom ran the bar in the back, and Chad washed dishes, and I bussed tables. So we were there every weekend almost with Mom, and Chad ended up working there, pretty much through high school, and then went on and did his own thing, and I ended up staying there all the way through high school. So in my sophomore, junior year, I'd get up about 5 o'clock in the morning, and then go to work, and then leave and go to class, go to sports, and then on the weekends, I'd work all weekend. My dad and my mom were both all about hard work, and so if sports and school weren't enough, my dad said, idle hands. So he made me get a second job during school, and so I'd work all the time, go to school all the time. So I really didn't have much of an opportunity to get in trouble too much. But around my senior years, when things started looking up for me in that department, it was a really cool place to work. They served beer. It was a family restaurant. He didn't account for anything. So we'd drink all day, out of the tap, or pour a bottle into a styrofoam cup and start drinking. And then, of course, I worked with older people. And back in those days, you could still go to the bar with your parents as long as they claimed you. So I had a different parent every Friday or Saturday night. Didn't matter what size or shape or color. They were my parent, and we'd go to the bar, and I'd drink with them. And it was cool. We had a blast. And but that didn't happen until around my senior year. Like I said, I grew up kind of grandma. That's what I was, the designated driver and all that good stuff, the responsible one. And but after that, like they say, c'est la vie, because it was a whirlwind. And I was trying to think today. I get real confused with dates and all that stuff through all this mess, and that's because most of it was just a blur after that senior year. I always worked, never went without a job. And from what I've heard in AA, if you don't, own or rent your own home, then you're homeless. So I was homeless for a long time. I slept on couches, lived with my parent, my mom. My dad wouldn't have any of that, so I'd live with my mom. She was a cool parent. She taught you how to roll a joint correctly, so you didn't look like a fool out there in the world. And anyway, Mom's house was always the party house, and so that's where I went, because that's where I was able to live my life on my terms in the way I wanted to. Let's see. After graduation, just kind of drank and worked. That was really all I did. I don't remember anything phenomenal happening or anything going too bad. Just made my way through life, working and drinking. And, looking back after I got into the program, more things became clearer, and I'd seen where those things had taken away things that I'd loved, but I didn't even notice that until, I got in here. And one of those things was volleyball. I could have probably got a little bit of a scholarship to go play somewhere, maybe junior college, I don't know. But I quit, because that's what I do when things get tough. I quit. And then sometime after graduation and before I got sober, like I said, I don't remember much, I went to the Navy. Did good in the Navy. I don't remember what it was called. It's like A-Rock or R-Park or something, I don't know. But anyway, I was the one that lined you up and marched you down the road and all that good stuff, and head of the little squad there. But I fell asleep on duty or whatever it is, and the sergeant or whatever he was called me back to the barracks, and I did exercise for the next hour and a half, and he took my little pen away from me and just put me back in the regular old ranks, and that's when I told him I had an alcohol problem, which I didn't believe I did, but I knew I drank, and I remember that question about how much you drank when you were going into the Navy, and I'd lied on that thing, and I thought it would bring, give me an opportunity to use it in the other direction if I was honest with them. So I used that to get out of the Navy, which I've regretted all my life. Not finishing volleyball, not finishing the Navy. Those are probably two of the biggest regrets I have from that period of time, or early on. After I got back from the Navy, I just worked jobs. I used to wash those big old buses, RV buses that travel on the roads. I worked for one of the biggest places down there in Katy, and I would wash them. Big old scrub brushes outside washing buses. That's what I did, because, at lunch I can go right down the road, not even a mile, to Brian's Ice House, where I also worked, get me a beer, have a little snack, and go back to work. And in that time of doing that, there was when I worked at Brian's Ice House, there was a crew that came around and always sat at the round tables there and drank and had a good time, and ended up hanging out with them a whole lot. And then I ended up working for them, and they were in landscape and irrigation. So I dug holes and ditches and whatever I could do just to make a buck and still be able to drink and do what I wanted to do without having to get a job where I had to take some kind of test or pass something. And that's when I ended up meeting my son's dad. So in about, about 2001 or 2, I made my way over here to East Texas, and still drinking, having a good time. And then in 2003, my son was born. And in that time, when my son was born, right when I was pregnant, Randall's sister said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Well, what are you going to do to support that boy?" I said, "I'm going to work." And she says, "You need a job." She goes, "Because you can't count on him for nothing." And she was talking about Chase's dad. And she said, "You need to be able to support that boy no matter what." And nobody ever encouraged me to go to school when I was growing up. Nobody in my family had ever been to college. They didn't set aside a college fund. They just blue-collared workers. That's all I've ever known. And so that got me to thinking, and so I started filling out applications for nursing school. And I got in. Oof. That was hell. My goodness, I don't recommend it to anybody. But I went to nursing school at night for 15 months. Got out of nursing school with my LVN, still drinking and having a good time. And of course, there's outside issues there also. And got me a job and went to work in the hospital. Had my son in 2003, in June of 2003, and let's see, there's one of those blank spots. We decided to move from Chandler to Palestine. And then once I got to Palestine, I found me a whole new bunch of friends, and these were my kind of people, the kind of people that I had back when I was living in Rosenberg and Richmond. They were into the same things I was into. And I was wondering, you know, I've always been one of those, if you got it, I'll use it, but I was always too scared to ask, you know, because what if you didn't, and then you looked at me weird and things got awkward. So, but I found my people and started doing everything a little harder and heavier. And then when was it? About 2006, I started calling into work a whole lot, and I'm not one to do that. And I'd been partying a little too hard and maybe taking a couple of pills out of the medication dispenser and started going off the deep end fairly quickly. And I don't know what brought AA up or I don't know where it even came from, but I went to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous in Palestine, and I think it's called the Green Room. And when I walked in that room, there was probably 8 people sitting in there, and 2 were like on oxygen tanks, and I really didn't know what that was about, and it really didn't interest me, so I went back out there for a while and continued doing my deal, and man, I just started going downhill really fast. I got sober when I was 30 the first time, and from 18 to 30, it wasn't a very long trip, and it went fast and furious. And in the beginning, it was really fun. I was having a great time. I was living life on my terms. I didn't have a care in the world. You know, I never wanted for anything. No, you know, just devastating things ever happened to me. I just became an alcoholic. And it got out of control. I went out drinking one night with some friends at the bar, and I woke up the next morning and knew I had to go to work, and I put my feet on the floor and my knee gave out and I almost hit the floor, and I was like, what the heck? You know, so I called into work and I was like, I think I hurt, I don't know what I did. I hurt my knee and I'm coming up there to the ER, so I won't be on the floor today. And I guess I was dancing really good or something. I don't know. That son of a gun buckled as soon as I stood up. And so I was in a wheelchair and running the halls while I was waiting on my x-rays and stuff like that, just having a blast. And then all I remember is, like, from that incident until I went to rehab, it was a blank. I was drinking by myself a whole lot. I was using. I was calling in, and I remember my boss saying, do you know that this is like your 5th time to call in 2 weeks? He's like, I'm getting a little concerned because I just don't call in. I don't get sick, so something's up. What's going on? I'm a little concerned. And I was like, oh, nothing, just, you know, hard times or whatever. And I was out with some friends not too long after that, and you know, and I have my son. I'm drinking and driving with him. I can't remember anything from 4 or less because I was so drunk or stoned. You know, I even tried to do one of those baby books but lost interest because it just wasn't a priority in my life. I remember looking through old pictures of me and him, and in every one of them I got a beer in my hand or in that little cup holder in the chair. You know, things just went out of control really fast. And I was out partying with a friend of mine, and there was this guy there, and he was using the hard stuff, that stuff you stick up your arm. And I was watching him really close, and I was wondering if I wanted to do that. I was wondering if that would help me get past this, you know, I can't get drunk the way I want to anymore, and I can't get stoned the way I want to anymore. I was wondering really hard if that was going to get me to where I wanted to be. And something in me snapped after that night. I was like, that's too much. That's way too much. You know, there was a lot of things I said I wasn't going to do when I was growing up. That was one of them. And another one was I wasn't going to be like my mom. And I was exactly like my mom, doing everything she did. You know, the reason that I moved out of that home in the first place. And so I went to work sometime, I don't know, I went to work and I just had a breakdown, and I went to my boss and the one that hired me, and I told her I was, I'm going off the deep end. I don't know what's going on. Screwed up. I said I need some help. Well, that was a big mistake. My goodness, the next 2 years of my life were worse, living hell. I got on the phone with this program they have set up for nurses. It's called TPAPing. Oh my goodness gracious. So they're asking me a bunch of questions, and they're asking me if I had a child, and I said yes, and they're asking me if I'd put that child in harm's way. I'm like, oh no, just having to lie left and right. That's all there was to it. And so I would say let's say it was a Monday. Well, of course I couldn't go back to work in that state, so I was off the rest of the week until I could find someplace, or they could find someplace for me to go. And so nothing changed in that week while I was waiting to go. I continued what I was doing, and they called Friday, and they said, we think we have a place for you. And it should be opening up soon, and it was in Stephenville, I think. So that weekend before I went to rehab, I went down to Houston and hung out with some old friends and did whatever was available, because they said I had a better chance of getting in if I was still using. So I was still using. I was like, that sounds weird, but I don't know anything about this, so I'm going to do as I'm told. Because that's who I am. I do as I'm told. So, boy, that was a wild weekend. And then on Sunday, they called about 11 o'clock in the morning, and they said, we got a space open. So I went from Houston to Stephenville in my little blue Nissan Sentra, drove myself all the way up there and walked myself in the door, and that's where, this program entered my life truly for the first time. I stayed there for 30 days, and or 28 days, whatever. And when I got out, they were, during the rehab, my not sponsor, but counselor had called me in a couple times, and she was worried about me because I haven't cried or anything like that. And I'm a crier. It's not that I don't cry. It just I didn't have anything to cry about, I guess. And she had a long conversation about that with me. And while I was in rehab, I'd actually gotten worse than the person that I didn't want to be, because during that time I lost custody of my son. I got a divorce, and Randall got custody of my son, and that was the new low and bottom for me. The only thing that just kept playing in my head is, not only are you like your mom, but you're worse than your mom. She never lost custody of her kids. She never had to go to rehab. She didn't almost lose her job or her nursing license. She kept her life rolling on along, and you're here screwing everything up. And that was painful. It still is. I think you can hear my voice cracking when I say it. And it's just very humiliating. And so while I was in rehab, I got a call from Chase. Chase is my son, and a counselor wanted to see me cry. Well, she got it. So I got out of rehab, and I went back to, before I got out, they made sure I knew where a meeting was in Palestine, and made sure I had numbers to people and all that good stuff. So as soon as I left rehab, the first place I went was to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting there in Palestine off the Loop. I still had my little place to live where I was living before I went, and thank God I had some great support around me, and other nurses and people helped pay my rent, and actually went over there and fixed my little dump up and, you know, put knickknacks and stuff like that. I'm not a knickknack person, so I had it all decorated, all nice. You know, it was, I didn't think I had friends like that. You know, I didn't think I had friends like that. And so I got home, and of course the first thing I wanted to do was see Chase, and wasn't able to do that for a little while. And my ex-husband told me I'd have to take a hair follicle test and all that stuff. And I'm like, bring it on. I'm sober. I've been sober for 29 days or whatever. But so I got into AA, and they told me to get into AA and find somebody that has what you want and ask them to be your sponsor and start working the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's what I did. And I don't know how it worked, you know, because I wasn't there to get sober. I was there to get this trouble out of the way. I was there to make sure I kept my nursing license and to get my son back and just to get everything on the level so that, you know, all this is behind me. For the next 2 years, I was in that thing called TPAPing, and it cost me. When I got back, I was paying for TPAPing, which was, I think, $150 a month. I was paying child support and insurance because I'd lost custody. This was my first time I was like on my own without nothing. I mean, just paying all my bills, and you know that, you know, I was just in shock and awe that I was the one that had to pay the insurance and the child support. It was just humiliating. I couldn't believe what I'd done to myself and to my son. And TPAPing required me to call in every single day for 2 years. When I called in, I would enter my code, and it would say, you have a test today, or it says, you do not test today. No matter where I was or what I was doing, if it said you have a test today, I had to go test. So before I went back to work, I had to get a bunch of forms filled out, and made sure that they were okay with me having to leave work at lunch or what have you to go take a test, and they really worked with me. They were the only people I got cards from when I went into rehab, the people from work. They were really, another humiliating thing that happened to me when I went back to work. It's not really humiliating, it's just that I'm a hard worker, and to rely on somebody else to do my job for me is just not kosher for me. And so for the next 6 months, I had to ask other nurses who were just as busy as I was to stop what they were doing and give my medications for me, because I wasn't allowed to touch the medications. But they were all real kind and supported me, and I'll always be grateful for them. And so for the next 2 years, that's what I did. It didn't matter if it was holidays, weekends, it did not matter. I had to call in every single day. And like within the first maybe 3 months, I'd missed 2 call-ins. I'm not good at new things, like, you know, if I get a new medication or something, remembering to take it all the time. And so I had missed 2 call-ins, and the lady was like, if you miss one more, you're out, and that means I lose my nursing license. And so I set that little alarm on my phone to make sure that I called every single morning, and only through God's grace did I make it through that program. It was horrible. I had to write, I had to get my paper signed, you know, like those people that really didn't want AA, they were just made to be here. And so I became one of those, and I had to get my paper signed and send that in, and you know, get my sponsor to say that I was doing all the work and all that good stuff. And but it kept me sober. It kept me coming in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, that's for sure. And I'm not a very good liar. I don't lie. I'm not good at it. My mom will tell you the same thing. she'll tell you, keep her talking, she'll tell on herself, I'm just not good at it. So I started working with Sherry. She's a wonderful member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I've never met or been a part of something so amazing than Alcoholics Anonymous. It has changed my life. It has changed my outlook on life. It's changed my perception. It's changed so much. And, like I was saying earlier, the way I thought, of how I thought my life was, or how my parents were, or whatever, all that stuff, alcoholics totally changed my perception on all that. And, I found out that my mom did the best she could with what she had, and, my dad, maybe that's all my dad knew, and just all these little things that come with the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And let's see, so I go through AA, and I'm having the time of my life. I got my husband back, I got my child back, I got my job back, and I got all that back, and things were going great. And ended up getting a divorce, and from him again. We got married on April Fool's after I sobered up for a little while. We got married on April Fool's Day at the courthouse, and that didn't work out for the second time, so we got divorced. And in that divorce, I got my son back. And that divorce was in front of a judge. And I had to hire a lawyer, never had to do that. And with my background going in front of a judge, I wasn't very optimistic. But my sponsor said, God's got this, you've taken the action, leave the outcome up to God, go in there, just be who you are, and everything will work out the way it's supposed to be. And I didn't believe that at all. I knew these people were out to get me. They know how bad I am, and they were just, I don't even know I'm spending this money. Well, the judge ended up having a daughter who was struggling with addiction. And she was in the ICU at the hospital that I worked at because she had overdosed. And when I got on the stand, I was vibrating. I was shaking so bad, kind of like I am now. I was shaking so bad. The questions that they were going to ask me, and Randall's lawyers just hammering me about my alcoholism and all this stuff. And anyway, I just told the truth, and like I said, I'm not a good liar. So when my lawyer was trying to prep me, she's like, no, you don't need to say it like that. You need to say it like this. Well, when I get up there, I can't remember any of that. All I can remember is what I know. So that's what I had to go with. And so that I ended up getting custody of Chase. And, that's only through the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and a very loving and forgiving God that had blessed me with him so many years ago, who I did everything in my power to where, I shouldn't have been a mother in the first place, the way I was living my life. But got custody of Chase, got a divorce, life was rolling along good. We lived in an old dump out in Elkhart. We lived in a little old trailer house. I think it's probably from the 70s. It was, like a mustard yellow, and the roof leaked, and there was a hole in the floor on one side, so you had to stay to the side on one hall. And my mom and Ann had come down to help us move in and get everything settled, and they were going to cook dinner for us one night. And my aunt goes to turn on the stove, and she's like, "Your stove doesn't work." And I was like, "It doesn't?" She said, "How long have you lived here?" I said, "A couple of weeks." She goes, "And you don't know if your stove works?" I said, "No. I don't cook." So they flip a breaker and it comes on. It's electric. So it's good. It's good. Ended up having steaks out on the patio anyways, or the plywood deck, because it was high class. And anyway, me and Chaser lived there, and he still refers back to those times in that dumpy old trailer house, and it just reminded me of Orchard, and growing up in Orchard, where I grew up. It was a town of 303 people. And, you know, we lived in that small little one-room house with no central AC and heat. And, you know, the first one to the toilet was a sucker because it was cold, and they warmed it up for everybody else. And, you know, when Mom left in the mornings, she turned that window unit off and said, if I'm in the heat, you're in the heat. So she'd turn that AC off, and we'd sweat it out. And, you know, and the air conditioning at the trailer house didn't work all that good all the time and had to be repaired a few times when we lived there. But, you know, we had a good time because we were, you know, me and Chase were in Alcoholics Anonymous. That from 4 years old until now, he's 16. He's been in these rooms with me. And life was good. I was working and going to AA and raising my boy, and everything was great. And then I met Zane. And everything got better for a while. So I meet this phenomenal man in AA. The way I meet him is I see his picture in the Cavender's ad, the Cavender's Boot City ad. He's modeling for Cavender's. And so I take that little picture of him over to him at a meeting, and I said, would you give me an autograph, please? And he turned red, and so it was awesome. We got married in 2013, rocking along in Alcoholics Anonymous. It was good. Everything was good. And in 2000, I made a note of this because I knew I'd forget it. In 2015, my son, I was driving him to school one morning, and we were in that drop-off lane in front of the elementary school there, and he was just about to get out of the car. There was probably 3 cars in front of us. And he says, hey, Mom. I said, what's up? You know that they're fixing to ask you or tell you something that you're not real sure of? Well, he had that look on his face. And I said, what's up? And he says, I want to go live with Dad. I'll see you later. He gets out of the car and leaves. And I'm just like, it's 7:30 in the morning. I just dropped my son off at school. And in the parking lot, he tells me he wants to go live with his dad. So that was a game changer. Literally, in every aspect of my life. He went to go live with his dad. You know, it was heart crushing. No, it made me question what I was doing, what kind of mother I was, all that good stuff. And you know, he just said he just wanted to go live with his dad. He didn't have any reason. He wasn't unhappy or anything like that. He wanted to go back to the school he had been in for a long time, which is totally understandable. This child, kid, young man has taught me so much. You know, he didn't do it in a malice way or anything like that. And he just wanted to go live with his dad and go back to Elkhart School District. And so he did. I let him go because I remember thinking back to that time when I left my mom and had to tell her that I wanted to go live with my dad. And I remember how it made her feel because I was feeling the same way at that moment. And so things kind of went down after that. You know, like I was saying before the meeting, I've never quite been enough. And after being married to Zane McDonald for a little while, that was becoming more and more obvious in my mind. You know, he's a wonderful man. He's been a wonderful husband, a wonderful provider. Never done anything to hurt me, cross me, or never done nothing. I mean, we get in arguments, he would just sit there. I mean, I'd get in an argument, he would just sit there. You know, he always did the right damn thing. He always said the right damn thing. You know, and it got too much for me to handle, literally. I put that pressure on myself. Chase leaving, not adding up as a mom somewhere in there. Married to the perfect husband, living the perfect life. That was too much for me to handle. And so I had to step on back out of the rooms from Alcoholics Anonymous for a little while. And that was the most miserable time of my life. Living in a AA home, watching somebody work the program every day of their life, no matter what's going on. Y'all, it's disgusting, really. It is. It is. Don't get me wrong, he has his faults, we all do. But my goodness gracious. He doesn't even cuss. Who doesn't do that? So, I started using drugs again, and I still haven't taken a drink since I got sober the first time, but I started using the other stuff, and I stayed out there for a long time, and during that time, we had my niece come live with me, who's a compulsive liar. It was the worst year of our lives. Let's see, when we got married, my son moved out. My daughter-in-law and her 2 kids moved in. They moved out. My niece moved in. And it was too much for me to handle. That Shelby, that's her name. She's crazy. Stay away from her. No, I'm serious. Oh my goodness. I thought I lied to cover up a few things. She's got it mastered. Woo. Anyway, that it really put a strain on me, and that's the closest I've ever seen Zane come to losing it. I was like, he is human. And anyway, we do hamburgers every first Wednesday of the month out at our house. That's something that the perfect husband started, and. So we'd have AA come over every month on Wednesday, and then we'd go to the Big Book study at Jacksonville at 8 o'clock that night, and I had to stay behind and clean the house, pick up after everybody, or I had to stay at home because Chase was there, or no, just whatever the reason was, because I wasn't going to a meeting, because I was still using. But my friends and AA, they knew it, and they just let me use and let me keep one foot in the door and one foot out until I was ready. They loved me through it, and I thank God for them each and every day, for y'all each and every day. And so in October of 2018, Chase called. He said, "Mom, I want to come live with you." I was like, I'm ecstatic. Well, I'm like, hell yeah, but, I'm using. And I'm thinking, my goodness. So November of 2018, we were down at my family's house in Hallettsville or somewhere like that, having Thanksgiving. And that evening, we got in the car to come home, and I came home with a gram of stuff in my purse. And I'm sitting there so miserable. Here I am with a husband that has turned my life around. He doesn't make my life, but he's given me more than I could have ever asked for. From where I came from, the living situations, home, financial, all of it. I'm in a better place in my life than I've ever been. And now my son is with me. He's wanting to come back home. And he is home. And we're heading home that night, and I've got that stuff in my purse, and I'm just so miserable, so miserable. And so I guess it was the next day, like the 29th. My sobriety date is November 30th of 2018 this time around. And so before then, I took that stuff and flushed it down the toilet, and just beat myself up so bad about it, and how ashamed again I was of myself. And so I called Zane out to the barn, and and I told him that I was using again, and being the perfect husband and AA that he is, he just hugged my neck and said, "That's what we do." And it was such a relief just to be able to get that off my heart and my chest. And having my son back in the house, the last thing I wanted to do was screw that up in any way. And I've had the opportunity to be able to drive him back and forth to school and to his sporting events for a year. And like I said, we live in Jacksonville, and he goes to Elkhart. So for a year, I got to drive him 45 minutes both directions and spend that time with him, and be a part of, I've always been a part of all his activities, but really be a part of his everyday life and those travels. And if I wouldn't have sobered up, I would have done it, but it wouldn't have been as valuable as it is to me right now, because in June he got his driver's license. And so now he's doing his own thing, of course. He drives himself. Although he says I can take him whenever I want to, so he can sleep on the way to school. But I'm passing on that deal. But when I first got sober in Alcoholics Anonymous, when I decided to go to rehab, alcohol and drugs had not taken anything from my life, from what I could see. I still had a job. At the time, I still had my son. I still had these things. But the second time around, it was different. I was, and I didn't have something that was enough to me to care about, to hold on to. And the second time around, it was totally different. I had a husband that I just adore in every single way imaginable. He's my best friend. I enjoy his company. We have a good time. We do AA. We do sports. We watch his corny cowboy movies together. He does his odd things, and I just love them, And then I got my 16-year-old son, who is, I call him Stud. The kids at school call him Mullet because he has a mullet. But he's just a phenomenal kid. He's 16 years old, and he's a 16-year-old. He doesn't do what we ask him or anything like that. He's not that phenomenal, but he's responsible, and he goes to school early and keeps his grades up, plays sports. He's a damn good athlete, and he was helping me get groceries out of the car a couple months back, and he says, "Mom, I'm 16 and I've never had a beer." And I'm like, and with this whole coronavirus thing going around, there's all these jokes out there about toilet paper and stuff like that. Well, my brother sent me one the other day, and on the toilet paper roll it had a pack of zigzags sitting there. And I was laughing. I showed it to him, and he's like, "What's that? I don't get it." And I'm like, oh my goodness. When I was his age, I knew how to roll one good because my mama taught me, and he doesn't even know what zigzags are, and I'm just so grateful for that, and like I said, he's been in the program since he was 4 years old. We had his birthday parties in these rooms, and, so this time around, Alcoholics Anonymous has meant something different to me. The principles are still the same. The actions are still the same. The program is still the same. It's just, I'm at a different point in my life, I guess, and there are truly things today that I have that I never want to lose, that I never want to let go of. The friendships, the fellowship, my husband, my son, my God. The things that this program has taught me and given me. that I've never found anywhere else in any other program or church or what have you. You know, I've been a part of a team, I've been a part of a congregation, I've been a part of a workforce, but I've never been a part of something like this. And, you know, and growing up with, you know, a single mom and a dad that didn't really get involved that much, I learned a lot of work skills, but I didn't learn a lot of life skills, you know, so I've learned everything that's worth something. I've learned in these rooms, except for the work ethic. That was hammered into me pretty hard, but you know, but that helps when you get in here because you're not scared to do the work, and there's no reason to be scared to do the work. I have no idea what the whole big scary thing is about the 4th step or the 5th step. I haven't figured that one out yet. I hear people say it a lot, but I haven't had that experience. It was the most relief I've ever gotten in my whole life. People say it comes with a knife. Maybe so for them. But being able to get all that stuff off my chest with somebody who's been through it, had shared their experience, strength, and hope with me without any judgment and still loves me to this day, I couldn't ask for anything more. You know, and all these principles have applied, all these steps have applied in every aspect of my life, no matter what the situation or where I'm at, and I'm truly grateful. I have a relationship with my mom today that's phenomenal. We've always had a good relationship. You know, today I have to put some brakes on some things, you know, but that's okay. My husband has been very generous to invite her to some of our outings. They haven't gone quite as planned. She, like I said, she's still drinking, so, you know, we got to pull the reins on her a little bit. My dad is still around. We don't have much of a relationship. It's very uncomfortable for both of us, I think. I don't know why, but it just is. But I still love him with all my heart and would be there in a heartbeat if he needed me to. You know, I have friends and family, and I'm not a burden on any of those people today. I don't have to rely on anybody else. I just get just this freedom that comes with the program. You know, that it's taught me to be self-sufficient through my own contributions. It's taught me to stay in my own lane and in my own business. And, you know, it's taught me acceptance. And that was really, really hard. That was harder than the 4th step. Really hard. Still is. But, you know, the major changes that I've seen in my life, you know, I was asking my husband about it earlier. You know, they say people see it before we do. And so I was like, what have you seen? What have you seen? You know, and he's seen me not lose my temper in a year and 5 months. He's seen me not belittle him and try to make him feel like a piece of crap, you know, in the year and 5 months that I've been sober. And to me, those are huge steps. That was the only defense I had against anything. And that was cutting you down, but, you know, I didn't ease into it. Went for the kill shot at the very beginning. But those are also things that I'm so grateful for, because I don't have to hurt my husband or my son or the people that I truly love in that manner anymore. You know, if I choose to stay in these rooms and take the suggestions that have helped me this far. And that's the reason that I had to come back through here, is because I quit doing what I was doing. It's not that I had some big plan or been thinking about it and letting it roll over in my mind, all those things they say in here. It just happened. You know, it didn't just happen. I quit doing what I was doing, and I quit getting the results that I had. And so that's my priority today, is AA first, because without it, I lose it all. And I'm grateful for my sponsor not only setting me straight, but making me aware of my qualities, not just the bad stuff. I never looked at those things, and it took me until this last time in here to understand what it meant to take that personal inventory. I thought that meant that list of all the bad things that I've done every single day. I never thought of listing any of the good things. I didn't think that played a role in my life. I didn't think that mattered, but, not in my sobriety or whatever, but, she's pointed out a lot of things that I didn't get the first time. And I'm just in, let's see how to phrase it. I'm in a better place right now that I've been in a long time. The last year of sobriety, it's been totally different for me. I went from hardcore to nothing. And like nothing. Like, I've said several times that I work pretty hard, and we have a big place out in the country, and I've always kept up the flower beds and done all this extra stuff. Well, the last year I haven't. And I've talked to my sponsor several times about it, and I'm like, man, something's wrong. I just don't have the energy I have, I've come to realize that I went from such a high level of go to absolutely nothing. And then I started working out. I've been working out for a little over a year now, and I thought that was supposed to give me energy, but that hadn't worked yet either. But I've stayed consistent with it, so I'm thinking my body's just in shock. I don't think it knows what to do. But it's been totally different. It's been good because I've learned how to just slow down and just relax and just enjoy today and not think I have to be doing something all the time to stay out of my head. And it's get to spend a little quiet time with God, let a few thoughts roll through there that I might need to be thinking about, instead of covering up with work or just keeping busy, trying not to think about things, and talking to my sponsor and going to meetings. It's the last year, and I think it's 4 months, not 5 months, have just been great. They're better than the first time around, and I'm so grateful I made it back in here, because I didn't think, we'd go, I went to the anniversary meetings, and they would do the sobriety countdown, and I had to go to the bathroom. Or we would be at other meetings, and they'd do some kind of countdown, and I had to go to the bathroom. And, I just disappeared anytime any length of sobriety was brought up, because like I said, I was still coming to meetings sometimes when I wasn't sober. And I'm not a good liar, so it wasn't easy for me. But I'm rambling now. I'm just really grateful to be sober today. I'm really grateful for the life that I have because of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm grateful for all of y'all. Thank you.